What's going on, everybody? It is Jon Does. It is episode 99. This is crazy. Wednesday is going to be a milestone for sure. What's going on, everybody? I hope you all had a good weekend. I definitely got some work done this weekend. There's going to be news about it on Wednesday, so you should join in on Wednesday for all kinds of good stuff going on. Real quick, does my mic sound weird to you, Ryan?
No.
Sounds okay?
No.
Okay. It was one of those weekends where it was unplugging stuff and plugging it back in, to try to get some stuff done. There's new music coming out very soon on my end, so pay attention or stay tuned. Join me on Wednesday when I'll announce all of that stuff. And don't forget to check out wilddinosaur.com. It's the best place to support the channel. If you like what we do here, if you like hearing our 90s nostalgia stuff or movie news or any of the stuff that we got going on here, check out the website and see if there's anything you like at the store. There's tote bags and sweatshirts and t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. And I might even be doing a couple more prints coming up pretty soon. Might have a couple of new designs. Excuse me. Yeah, anyways, let's get on with our episode. Ryan is here, and this week we listened to the Stone Roses' Second Coming, which was their second record. It came out in 1994, December 5th, 1994, is what I understand. I didn't notice if there was like a UK release and then like an American release. I just saw December 5th. So I'm just going off that information. Did you get anything else out of that I missed, Ryan?
The lead single was Love Spread, and that debuted on the 21st of November. That was kind of an event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Missed that one, I think.
That is how I was introduced to the Stone Roses. I can't remember her last name, but it was Kelly, or maybe it was, I'm pretty sure it was Kelly, at 89X, Windsor.
Yep. Well, I guess let's get into it. That's how you heard them for the first time, was on the radio?
Yeah, and I mean, as I say, it was an event, and they advertised this event. I mean, as I recall, for 1 to 2 weeks before. I guess that would be November 7th, eh? Between November 7th and November 14th, Kelly on 89X started talking up this lead single from the Stone Roses, their sophomore album, Second Coming. And it was going to be so huge.
So, real quick, you hadn't heard the first record at all?
No, not that I knew of.
Okay.
No way.
The Stone Roses' first record is just called The Stone Roses, in case anyone's listening.
Yeah, and it came out, oh man, 89?
Yeah, 89.
I don't know. They were making music before that, too.
I'd read they got together in like 83 or something like that.
Yeah, and there was some, I think they took to serious recording around 86, 87.
Mm-hmm.
If I had heard anything from them, it would have been, you know, in a context where I didn't even know it was them, you know, and it probably would have been, okay, they remixed the hell out of, this is from their first album. There were a lot of early Stone Roses remixes. They were in some weird quasi-legal holding pattern for a while where they couldn't release any music, and the previous label was just raiding their back catalog, I guess.
I do remember hearing a little bit about that, but I'm not privy to a lot of the details, other than there was you know, you hear about record label disputes with artists like that, especially in the 90s. It was always a thing, more so than you hear nowadays. But yeah, that's I'd heard a little bit about some disputes there. I wonder how much that took a toll on them as a band over time. We can get into that a little bit later, but yeah, sorry. Keep going.
Things ended badly for this band, people. Yeah. Spoilers. And they kind of got off to a rough start, too. Anyhow, I probably have a few Stone Roses remixes, just pulled, you know, ripped from assorted compilations over the years. They were around, for sure. But I think a lot of a lot had happened in the UK since the Stone Roses debut. And that was the stuff that was at the forefront. You know, that was what was getting played on 89X, and that was probably it was the newer stuff that was getting played on my stereo at home. The world had passed them by.
Yeah, it seems like it. You know, we often talk about our various age difference and how we, you know, reacted to the bands that we've been talking about throughout these episodes. I had probably heard the name the Stone Roses at some point, but I started to really hear the name as I got a little bit older and started to like pay attention to things going on in different subgenres. So like when you hear about like Blur versus Oasis, for example, which I'm sure is something we'll talk about more. The Stone Roses, to me, kind of got grouped into those when I was into those conversations when I was younger. But I really come to find that like the Stone Roses was really a big inspiration for a lot of those bands at the time, because they came out of the, what was it called, the Manchester scene or something like that. So I honestly have not been very aware of the Stone Roses for most of my life. I probably started really listening or hearing stuff that I liked, that I was like, oh, that's the Stone Roses, probably like 3 years ago, 3 years ago, to be honest. They're just one of those bands that like I heard about, and honestly, whenever the like the Battle of the British Band conversation comes up, and Beatles, Oasis, it doesn't matter the time frame. Just whenever I hear these conversations about like this band versus this band, I get really scared. I'll be honest. I kind of like, okay, well, I'm out of this conversation, because if I say anything, one of these bands will find me and break my kneecaps. So yeah, I always group them in with that conversation, even though they predate those bands by almost a decade. Oasis didn't come about until a little before Second Coming. I think it was like 91 or 92. And Blur, right. I don't even remember. when they started. Damon Albarn's a whole nother conversation. Look, anybody who bullies Nardwuar is not my friend. But
Blur got a little rough.
Yeah,
with Nardwuar.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. So anyways, that's kind of my introduction to the Stone Roses, was hearing them thrown around in passing, and oftentimes looped in with, maybe not always, Oasis. And forgive me, I'm forgetting some bands to like compare to, I guess. But Oasis was an easy get for me right off the top of my head there. But yeah, so let me ask you about, because Second Coming was seemingly your first introduction to the Stone Roses and what you heard on the radio. How did you feel about that when you first, was it one of those like reactions you had, like when you listened to, I don't know, Ween or some other, I don't know, were you excited by what you were hearing, or were you like, this is okay, or was it just like fine? It was fine. Was it something that you even digested at that time?
I was looking forward to it. I was roped in. I liked, they debuted Pink Floyd's The Division Bell in its entirety on a radio broadcast. There were a few radio stations in town that broadcast from clubs that had DJs spinning live.
Mm.
There were episodes where radio stations would really try and reach out to their audience in some real ways, and yeah, that Pink Floyd record was all right. I bought into that hook, line, and sinker. The debut of this single, and every day that passes there in November of '94, Kelly is throwing out some tidbits of the band.
Mm-hmm.
How anticipated this record is, how they've been working on it for years, how they've gone to, I think they went to like 3 different studios, and and you got to understand, at the time it was, there was a lot of electronic on the air. The modern rock radio station was, just not the homogenous entity it seems to be today.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing stuff that was up to like 20, years old. I think they started playing, the oldest stuff they played would come from the mid-'70s and was like proto-punk somehow, usually.
Mm-hmm.
Right to the bleeding edge. They had a very English take on indie and alternative music, and I was there for it. I loved it. It was my favorite commercial radio station. I don't know if there's anything like that broadcasting now. I'm sure there are some satellite stations, or someone's got, I don't know, free-form radio stations still exist, and they probably get about the closest to what 89X was pulling off. With that being
Berkeley
said,
Radio doesn't cut it for you?
Calex is great.
Calex is great.
Calex is great.
Marshall Stacks is the man.
Marshall Stacks is the man. A shout out to WCBN in Ann Arbor, Michigan, while we're at it. That would be another great free-form radio station. Point being, Love Spreads didn't sound like anything that was current at the time. It was obviously a throwback, and that hit me in a good way. I liked that initially. It was a surprise. I put it together, shortly thereafter, that they had a much different sound previous. But I thought at the time that I understood what they were trying to do and appreciated the attempt at just, going in a completely different direction, but one as audacious as this, really.
Yeah.
Because it, on the surface, to me, seemed to have a lot more in common with classic rock. And I liked that initially.
Those are a lot of my comments on this record. There's a lot of I to steal your term, classic rock. I mean, it's I hate using the term sometimes, but yeah, no, there's definitely a classic rock vibe to a lot of this stuff, and in some of the playing style too, which seems a little different from that first record.
Well, John Squire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought that song was cool. I still think that song is cool. But, and let's just get right into it.
Let's go.
That's the only song like that on that record. That's the only song like that they really ever did. It's a bit of an anomaly. It's a good song, but it sticks out like a sore thumb in their discography. And besides Love Spreads, I defy you now to hum or sing any bar from any other song to me right now, if you can.
Of theirs?
Off of Second Coming.
Oh, off Second Coming, yeah, that's not something I can do.
Anything.
Yeah, no. I would say Foz, but Foz is kind of just like a lot of noise, like bluegrass noise. It's bluegrass noise.
Yeah.
With a little honky tonk piano in there.
So they try that a little bit on Straight to the Man.
Mm-hmm.
There's that country vibe with the jaw harp, and I think there's a Hammond back there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Tightrope, though. I'm on a tightrope, baby, 9 miles high. He sings that. He sings that relatively well.
Yeah.
There's a hook there on Tightrope. I prefer the acoustic guitar numbers on this album after Love Spreads.
That's not a surprise to me, but it might be a surprise to you too. Those are also the songs I tend to lean to on this one as well.
That guy, oh my gosh, Ian Brown.
Yeah.
Do we want to go with we just brought up John Squire.
Sure.
We've got options here. Do we want to talk about Ian Brown or John Squire?
Let's talk about John Squire. Let's keep going on this John Squire kick.
Okay.
Because I don't know much about the band members. I know a little bit about Ian Brown. I've listened to a couple of his solo tracks that I think are pretty good.
Oh boy.
They're newer stuff.
Was it his anti-COVID anthem or?
Oh, I didn't know he had one, to be honest.
I tell you this every time. I have to check. I have to vet our subject these days.
Yeah.
So no one in this band is currently known as a junkie pedophile.
That's good.
But yeah, COVID hurt some feelings.
Snowflakes.
Ian specifically.
Yeah.
It would be cool if he got together with Richard D. James and Eric Clapton and did something.
Oh man.
I think.
I actually, forgive me, I kind of didn't pay attention to some of the political stuff with certain people. I didn't know Richard D. James was anti-vax, or I don't know if that's correct or not. I didn't know he had any sort of commentary on that.
Yeah, he did.
Shouldn't be surprised.
Early on. And it would have been nice if he'd kept his mouth shut. What I'll say in defense of Richard D. James is that guy conceivably is as crazy as I am. And that's no excuse, but he leads kind of a hermit lifestyle. He can get deeply into things and cut himself off from the world entire. And he just might be a pissy kind of skeptic all around. And his COVID denialism might be totally in step with his personality.
Sure.
I don't know. I'd be willing to forgive Richard D. James for playing devil's advocate, at least. I mean, the Reverend Horton Heat was kind of a dick about it, too. And, you know, eventually he came around. Yeah. And people need to be able to make mistakes.
Absolutely.
Man.
100%.
And it doesn't just take one denying the efficacy of vaccines or the severity or virus or any of that to get on my shit list. And I love Richard D. James. But I thought we should get off of the COVID-19
sure.
trip and how some celebrities might have responded to it.
Yeah.
My, if I could just bring that to a close, I have a problem with their opinions being brought to the fore on the subject at all.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless one of them happens to, like, hold a degree in immunology or something like that, I don't even think they ought to be provided with a forum to discuss most world events.
Right. And that's this weird celebrity culture that we live in, which is like, that's a completely different subject matter that I'm sure both of us would talk about for a long time.
In particular, I think the British press in particular is just much more severe and probably worse than our own, which is really saying something. But to get back to John Squire.
Yeah.
He, to his credit, has put down his guitar a few times since the Stone Roses, and he focuses on his painting. His painting is okay. It's modern. It's fine. It's cool that he's doing that. He probably makes a lot more money.
I bet he's no George W. Bush, though. That guy can really paint.
It wouldn't be fair to compare them.
Sure.
It wouldn't be fair to compare them. Whew. Yeah, we need to sidestep politics.
Oh, yeah, no, that's tight.
At
that's
every
totally
possible opportunity. No, you brought up Bush, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up.
I just remember seeing a news clip of him from, I don't know, this was maybe 5 years ago or something like that, and it's like, what's he been up to since? And then it's just him being like, I really love mixing orange and yellow and red together just to see what'll happen or something like that. And I'm just like, yeah, man, it's called painting. Like a lot of people do that. Children do that, for example, like pretty regularly. Sorry, not to sidestep back into that. That was just a funny like life meme, I guess, that I think about every once in a while. It's like, what do we think about the deep thoughts of George Bush? And he's like, well, how do I get this chair to look right? You know? How do I make it look like a toddler painted this? Oh, you're on the right path. Good old George. Anyways, John Squire, what do you? Getting back to the Stone Roses.
I think his playing is unremarkable. I think this is a terrible record, and I know what I liked about it. I remember what I liked about it at the time, and that's just not enough. I tell you, this is one of the most disappointing re-listens. You usually ask. It's been the case that some of the albums and bands we've discussed are actually lifelong listens for me, man. Stone Roses does not fall into that category, and I was excited to go back and listen to Second Coming, and I was just appalled by what I heard. There's a lot less there than I thought at the time. And I think, to be fair, I fell for it way back when because they had the element of surprise going for them. And you didn't expect, a current English band to do anything like that.
Yeah.
And when I say do anything like that, I mean his rambling leads that go nowhere.
Oof. Yeah.
They do a straight up 12 bar, man, which is just a no-no. Breaking into Heaven wastes so much time.
It's like 6 minutes before you even get into the song.
They really lead you on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I tell you, again, Love Spreads he's got the goods there. There's some inventive arrangements going on. It's got its own little push and pull. He's got some cool riffs. I think he is playing slide on that one.
Yeah.
They throw some piano in on the second round. It's good. The rest of the songs are not that well arranged. I mean, what's the name of that one? Daybreak actually is a pretty cool song. That has a tempo change in the last third. And that has a lot of its funk comping, okay?
Yeah.
Which is good. It's solid. And it's evident that the guy really listens to Jimi Hendrix and tried to take some of that to heart. I just don't think he's using it effectively on this album.
I will 100% agree with you on all of that. I felt the lead stuff, most of the guitar stuff, again, barring a lot of the acoustic tracks.
There are two of them.
Yes. Was it 10-Story Love Song and
okay, 10-Story Love Song is a bit of a hybrid. All right.
Yeah, fair enough.
But You Will Shine was the one Your Star Will Shine. Your Star Will Shine,
yeah.
One I was thinking of. But yeah.
And then
10-Story Love Song would count.
I actually like that one a bit. That was one of the ones that I was like, oh, this is actually like it felt like good songwriting. For the most part, I don't really have anything to rebuff here at all, or in regards. I guess what I was gonna say was, I heard so much Jimi Hendrix and so much Led Zeppelin, in this, that it started to feel like a generic cover band in some ways. Not the whole record, but like at least the guitar parts. Like you're saying, some of the leads don't go anywhere. It's like we've talked about Hendrix solos for the last like a year and a half or so now, and yeah, it's like he learned some Hendrix solo tricks, but like didn't decide to use them for anything particular. And then yeah.
Well, just Hendrix was really good at funk comping, and so is this guy. What Hendrix had, I mean, and the reason what Hendrix had was the ability to throw single string and double stop runs into all of that, and blend the soloing and the chording. That's why we should listen to Jimi Hendrix, and as guitarists, try to learn from him. There's a mastery of the instrument there that I think we've kind of in danger of losing. This guy didn't have it.
No.
It was either all comping or all leads with him. He was never weaving. Folks, if it sounds like I haven't listened to this album in 20 some odd years, I haven't. I've actually listened. I've listened to this record more times than I'd like in the past week, to be honest, because I can't believe it's as bad as I think it is.
Yeah.
And yeah.
This is probably a conversation that is, I don't know, 30 plus years old now at this point, but it is incredible to me to see the vast change. Now, given, I know you hate it when I say this, all art's subjective, right? You're like, no.
Sure.
The difference between quality, quality might be a loose term. But the differences between the first and second Stone Roses records is night and day for me. And when this album is, to me, the epitome of a sophomore slump. It's so much so that it broke the band.
It's a sophomore nosedive.
Yes.
It's run over by a truck.
Because, we're sitting here talking about how, John Squire is not a very good, or not that he's not a good guitar player, he just doesn't have a thing with it on this record. Now, listening to the first Stone Roses record, there's some badass guitar in there. Not to say it's the greatest, but to me, I'll put it in these terms, I guess. On that first record, he was less Jimi Hendrix and more Johnny Marr. With a little bit of, I don't know. There was a lot of really strong guitar work on that first record comparatively.
He had a few tricks in his bag.
Yeah.
He had a few tricks in his bag.
And they worked well. But then this second record comes about, and it really did feel like this was I know they had jumped from one label to another at this point, but it really did feel like an obligatory record. Like they just had to make it to fulfill some sort of contract, because it doesn't really feel like it holds much weight. Yeah.
Yeah. You might be onto something there.
And it is I guess sad, like in the sense of these talented musicians. Like, they put out this record that people still consider one of the best records to come out of the UK, rock records to come out of the UK.
I can't believe they're in earnest. Not on that one. Hold on, are we talking about Second Coming, or are we talking about Stone Roses?
No, I was talking about Stone Roses and how that's such a highly regarded record in certain circles. You know, you especially talk to like the like Oasis fans. So, you know, Stone Roses is like the template to a degree, minus the brotherly infighting. That still continues, which is still hilarious. In terms
one of the
Oasis.
brothers had a lot to do with that scene. He was a roadie. He worked. Dude, he put his back into it. Yeah. I want to remain neutral on Oasis, okay?
Yeah.
But, and I do not remember which brother it was, but one of them. Man, seemed like he was everywhere and knew everyone.
Mm-hmm.
He had a hustle, and it was like manual stuff he was doing.
And I think I even remember Noel is the older brother guitar player. Liam is the younger lead singer brother. And I think I remember seeing an interview with Liam handful of years ago where he was talking about the Stone Roses, and he was like, yeah, I bought the same kind of clothes just to like be like Ian Brown, you know, the like Euro style jacket with the collar.
They called it the baggy. They called it the baggy.
Yeah.
Fashion.
And that, like, that really I guess influenced Liam in the fashion sense, or around, you know, who he wanted to be as a rock star. But yeah, so it is night and day listening to both those records. That first one is I do really like the Stone Roses record. I think it's yeah.
I want to talk about their previous work, too.
Sure.
But we just got done, more or less, with John Squire. And I feel like we're letting Ian Brown off the hook.
Okay.
For the mess that Second Coming is. And before we start talking about them, when they made music that is pleasing to us,
yeah,
I would like to suggest we go and talk about the vocals and the songwriting really quick.
Okay, sure.
Look, I did my homework. I did a little bit more reading than usual because it's just so bizarre for me to be so thoroughly unimpressed with a record, okay? I thought there must be some explanation. I went looking for one. Apparently, John Squire wrote the lyrics for these songs.
Okay.
And I guess Ian Brown was expected to perform them. Now, I thought Ian Brown was the vocalist. I couldn't get much info on who was writing what exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to Ian Brown underperforming on this, and I really think he is. I mean, as far as Squire's solos not really going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to say they're solos, man, because sometimes he's just going off while there's singing. I mean, sometimes it just runs through the whole song.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's got diarrhea of the fretboard.
I played with people like that. Hey, I've been that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, but you didn't have the audience and the feedback.
Exactly.
And the guidance. And the money.
And the record label breathing down your neck.
I mean, I think the guitarist is to blame for the lack of hooks, but there are no tunes. I don't think... Mike Doty is more melodious.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Gideon Brown is on this record. The Beta Band has better sounding vocals.
Oh, boy. We're going
than
there
this record. I'm going to go there. Because, like, not only is he not really singing, but it's just... I don't like the way his vocals are mixed. I don't like the way they're delivered. I don't like anything about them. I don't like what they're trying to say. And let me tell you, there's a lot of God talk on this record. A lot of God talk on this record. You'd think I'd love it. Nope. Nope. It's appalling.
Well, I think it is, again, going back to the comparison to the two records that we have, the Stone Roses and Second Coming, like everything, again, I have re-listened to the Stone Roses and Second Coming. I actually did it a bit today. I had to do, this weekend was a long weekend for me, but I did try to squeeze in as much Stone Roses as I could today as well. And again, I am listening on Spotify, so there's a chance I have remastered stuff that's not labeled remastered for like the digital release. But what just based on what's on Spotify in comparison, the first record is mixed so much better than that second one on across the board. Bass, drums, guitar, all of it is so much better on that first record than the second one. And not to say that it's bad, it's just like it's not like you're saying, his vocals are not mixed in. I had a hard time understanding him in some I am not usually a vocal
intelligibility becomes an issue.
And I'm not personally, like when I listen to music, I hardly focus on vocals or lyrics as much as I do the other parts of the music most of the times. And so it was very like, well, there's a vocal part there, and it's serving some purpose, but I'm not sure what yet.
So, what were you saying about... Talk a little bit more about the mix, for Second Coming. Overall.
I think the strongest part of the mix in all of this, and I actually think this about most of the album in general, the strongest part to me was the bass player. Forgive me, I forget his name. What is it? Manny. I almost said Muni. Manny's bass playing on
Manny
this.
And Remy.
There was, I kept in my head, hearing a lot of Led Zeppelin in this record, or at least attempts at Led Zeppelin. And what was it? Tears? I have in my notes here. Tears is a passable Led Zeppelin knockoff. They tried to go with it's essentially like oh my gosh, what's the I can't believe I'm blanking on Led Zeppelin's big Stairway to Heaven. Oh my God, I cannot believe I forgot Stairway to Heaven, the name. A lot of that structurally seems like they were trying to achieve that, but the only thing that actually worked that sticks out to me in any of this, again, is that bass playing. It feels in a lot of it feels very John Paul Jones. What you got?
Like I was saying, shortly after Second Coming came out, Seth would have got it. And we'd listen to it in the car, driving around. I thought it was pretty cool because for being a blues-based record like it was, it sounded huge because of the low end.
Mm-hmm.
I think that record, superficially, you know, when heard from the windows of a passing vehicle, sounded pretty badass.
Yeah. There's some surface level awesomeness to this record, but that's all it is surface level.
The rock records that we were listening to, if they had that kind of low end and that kind of like groove, they were probably industrial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of wax track stuff kind of had that same attention to low end. Like a lot of metal just totally shelved bass. Okay. Like,
yeah.
There was a lot of rock and roll around at the time that just had no bass.
Yeah.
It was an abomination.
They're like, we'll fit as many like rhythm guitar tracks we can there to make it heavy, but we'll just leave the bass out.
So, and that counted for a lot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, Seth and I were getting more, and that's the other thing. It was a rock act that could match the depth and impact of a lot of the hip hop that was out there sonically.
Yeah.
Sonically, this record hit like that. It had bass. The drums came hard. You know, that was good stuff. And if it went on for 6 minutes, you know, okay. I think Seth got deeper and deeper into classic funk and soul. And I got more and more into American garage acts
mm-hmm.
that were doing something with the blues. The problem was none of them had as nice equipment as the Stone Roses did.
Yeah.
You know, I would find all of that out later and piece it together, but for a second, and I mean a couple months, it would have been the end of '94 and the winter of '95. That Stone Roses record was its own little thing, and I was ignorant of its faults. I mean, the guy wasn't singing properly. Well, I could be very forgiving of that.
Yeah.
Especially at the time. I could, and remain forgiving of the occasional fella who has to do rhythmic monotone or whatever.
Yeah.
If there's something to what he's saying, you know, if the lyrics are good, so be it. Do your thing, man. Sing your song. I wasn't as discerning back then. I was a kid. I didn't know shit. The faults I find with it now they're not nitpicks, and I don't think they're subjective, but it's like been, oh my God, nearly 30 years of listening, you know?
Mm-hmm.
To bring that to bear on a record that I think is universally acknowledged as being a disappointment.
Yeah.
Some jerk-offs, wrote some columns about 5 years back and a decade back, I guess, calling for a reappraisal, second coming. These guys are delusional. It was clickbait.
Yeah.
It was rickrolled. They weren't serious. This wasn't written in earnest. They wanted teenage know-nothings to buy their record, you know, and I'm sure plenty did. And I dug it. I mean, they had me fooled. And when we're talking about this being garbage, it's not like it was hateful or unnecessarily abrasive.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're out of key. If you are listening at home and have never heard a Stone Roses' Second Coming, it's not the trash we're making it out to be. It's not utterly incompetent. It's just boring.
Yes, completely.
It lacks polish. These things weren't thought through and weren't properly finished.
There was a thought I had about I don't know what track I was listening to, but it was somewhere maybe halfway through the record. And even though I lived through the 90s, I had this moment where I was thinking, this is quintessential alt 90s rock, in the sense of like a lot of bands that I remember hearing were trying to be the Beatles of sorts, and then they added a tambourine for the front man. Oasis did it, Stone Roses did it. I mean,
Brian Jonestown Massacre, baby.
Absolutely, that's their whole thing.
Joel, he's Mr. Tambourine Man himself.
and yeah, so I think there's some things, like we were saying a little bit ago, about the mixing, and maybe the vocals could have been better, or maybe, John Squire could have practiced his leads a little bit more, or found some sort of...
He could have written some leads. That's what he could have done.
Or find some finality to, like, things that he was playing. Are you serious? My camera's overheating? How is this over... Whatever. I haven't had this problem in, like, months, but whatever. It's not going to shut down right now, I don't think. We got about 7 minutes left anyways, so...
So, look. We both agree. I think this was my idea. I blew a 90s nostalgia pick on this dog.
Don't feel bad, because I think when we were talking about this initially, we both wanted to do the Stone Roses, but then we realized it came out in '89, and that kind of put the 90s nostalgia thing out of whack for us.
I have fond memories of listening to that album back in the day, and I was looking forward to learning more about it and maybe revisiting. Yeah. It scared me the hell away. I want to tell a quick story about their first record.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I went a long time without hearing it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought it on vinyl from Amoeba, Berkeley, California. Amoeba Records.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. Would have been about 2011, maybe 2011, 2010, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I took the record home. I listened to the A side. I listened to the B side. The next day, I took the record back to Amoeba. And it was one of the old heads there at the counter. The skinnier, nicer one, with longer hair, as I recall, had glasses. I was like, "Hey, man, I need to talk to you." I said to him, "I never do this, but I want to exchange this." And he's like, "Oh, wow." And he's like, "Is there anything wrong with it?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Okay." And he's looking at me, and I can tell he's like sizing up my age. I would have been in my mid-30s then.
Yeah.
And he's like, you don't like this. And he's like, "What is it?" And I'm like, "Gosh, man, it just isn't for me." And he's like, "Boy, I remember when I heard this." He's like, "I want to be adored." Everybody felt that, and he was really it hurt him to see me bringing this record back. And I'm like, "Listen, I'm in here all the time. I just want to swap it out for something else." He's like, yeah. And I'm like, "Okay, I'll be right back." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And I go, and I come back with Protection by Massive Attack. And he's like, oh, okay. okay, I understand. That seemed to explain everything to him. And he was like, I get you. Okay. You're one of those. I hated their first record when I heard it. Oh Lord. I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, how is it people so this time, Jon B, after I listened to Second Coming, I was like, I'm going to find out more about this band. They have a collection of B-sides. It's called Made of Stone.
Oh, okay.
And it's awesome. We've been talking shit about the Stone Roses for about an hour now.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just get it out there. Made of Stone is actually made of gold. And anyone who ever loved the Stone Roses really just should have told me to find this record. I'm telling you, I'm telling your audience, go listen to Made of Gold by the Stone Roses. That's a snapshot of the time. John Squire's playing throughout is badass. He might rip off George Harrison too much, but his funk comping is through a wah a whole bunch. He does a lot of wah playing, which is just sick. His leads are badass. His trick bag is on full display. Riffs, leads, accompaniment, funky chords, wah playing. Everything. Not everything. Maybe there are a few clunkers, but there aren't any of the POSs you'll find on either other record, in my opinion. Made of Stone.
These were B-sides
totally
from
redeemed.
Second Coming?
No. Hell no.
Okay.
No.
They're just...
These are all the B-sides and shit that were, like, bound up in legal dispute.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just all the stuff they released, like, prior or around that first album. And it's great. All of it. Just give that a shot. You might be suffering from Stone Roses exhaustion, Jon B.
Only with this record. I still am a fan of the first record, and you know we like to recommend other records from people. That's my recommendation. If you're gonna listen to Stone Roses, listen to the Stone Roses, their first one. Ryan's seems to be, what is it? I'm sorry, what is it again?
It's called Made of Stone.
Made of Stone.
Or is it Turns to Stone? I believe it's Made of Stone.
I have a Spotify up here real quick. Let me see.
I believe it's Made of Stone.
Compilations. Turns into Stone. 1992
My
compilation.
My bad.
No worries.
My
no
bad.
worries.
I think I heard that Thursday.
All right. Well, I will check that out because I didn't catch that one before.
You tell me if you don't think that is as good as or better than their debut album.
Okay.
It is a wonderful collection.
I will listen to it, and I will get back to you about that next week.
This is like a tale of redemption for the Stone Roses, really. I mean, I think we went to the darkest corner of their discography, and I just want to get it out there. I wondered. That's the thing, man. I especially after listening to Second Coming, recently, I was just like, how is it I am totally dissociated from these people who have some intelligence and taste to speak of?
Mm-hmm.
What's the disconnect? Why do I hate the Stone Roses right now? Is there something else they've got besides these two albums? And sure enough, man, Turns into Stone is what it's called.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll like I said, I'll give that a listen.
Oh, dude, and this guy is singing. He's singing his heart out.
Good. You actually get. How's the mix? I know it's compilation stuff that's
it's that early '90s English dance rock stuff that I like so much. Man, the mix is perfect. It sounds great. It sounds great. But I mean, it's well written and fun, and yeah, man, The Stone Roses don't straight up suck. I mean, their reunion cash grabs or whatever they're doing to like hose their fans for money now is probably garbage. I don't know where their solo careers have taken them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, do you feel like you've gotten everything you need to get off your chest about the Stone Roses?
It's rare for me to come down hard on an English band from this era. You know, yeah. I loved a lot. I loved much of that music. I loved much of that music mistakenly as if it were my own. I was tricked. I like Mojo and Melody Maker and the English press. Man, I wasn't able to understand as a kid that the English press was concerned with the English press.
Yeah.
And it sort of distorted your view of music. It could distort. It certainly distorted my view of music at the time. You know, you live and you learn. And I think the internet kind of helped change that a bit. We can talk about that some other day.
Well, there's a lot of conversations to be had about pick a subgenre. We could probably talk about it for months.
Well, it's just with the Stone Roses, I get the sense that they had a complicated relationship with the press, and it probably bordered on antagonistic. And, you know, I think that band's importance was distorted by the press. And then our press, that is to say, Rolling Stones, Spin, whatever, we're just kind of being lazy and picking up the scraps off of the Brits, you know?
Yeah.
If they had been paying as much attention to any of our local scenes as they were to what was going on in London at the time, we'd have a very different musical landscape today, I think, you know?
Yeah, probably.
And it's like, not only did the British rock and roll press distract me from what was going on, but everyone else too, you know? I think some people knew better, but yeah, I'd only find that out later.
Well, if we did have a different, you know, musical landscape, I wouldn't be as entertained by Noel and Liam Gallagher subtly jabbing each other in interviews. To this day, I saw something recently where it was like Liam Gallagher answers questions from like a 3rd grade class or something like that, and he, in the middle of that, just starts like laying into Noel too. I mean, he's PC about it because he's learned he's in front of little kids, but like, yeah, he still can't help himself. So that would be the only disappointing thing for me, because I think that
the musical landscape would change in this way, man. Okay, if our press, like a parasite, wasn't leeching off of their press, our press instead might have been promoting kick-ass Detroit bands that I was going out to see when I was a little kid.
Fair enough.
You know? Those guys might have gone a lot further. You know, if we'd have been paying more, that is to say our press, had been paying more attention to them.
Yeah.
What was going on in their own backyard, as opposed to, across the pond. I don't hate English people. I don't hate English people, for God's sake. But we share a language. We share a language. And I think as a kid...
And a queen. There will only be one queen in my book. Rest in peace. Freddie Mercury.
R.I.P. Freddie Mercury.
R.I.P.
No, as a kid, it really it took some figuring out to disentangle, like, what was British and what was American and what was important because, you know, yeah. I seem to remember having a lot of friends that were similarly confused, and they usually erred on the side of just loving British culture, you know?
Yeah.
You have a buddy who just loves all British comedy or something like that, perhaps?
I'm probably that guy in my friend group. I like a fair amount of British
television. You seem pretty
television.
well informed on that stuff.
Yeah, I do like a fair amount of British television, I would say. Probably piquing my interest was the Mighty Boosh way back in the day. Like 2005 or something like that. But yeah, no, I do enjoy a lot of. Actually, this is not the episode for it, but there's a show called Ghosts. It's a British show, and then they made a CBS American version, and out of American remakes of things, I do like the CBS version, but the British version is still superior in my book. So yeah, I might be that guy in certain circles.
Well, American comedians suffer for it, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
Those cats could be paying your ass to edit their, I don't know. What are they doing for content now?
OnlyFans?
These comedians. Slam dunk.
No, I mean, a lot of them...
I mean, I guess with that, I might as well say Patty sound and we're out, huh?
Yep. I mean, honestly, OnlyFans is a joke, but I mean, a lot of comedians do start podcasts and stuff like that when they don't have shows because they just need to put out whatever material. So yeah, I mean,
well, it's content. Call it for what it is.
Call it naked content behind a paywall. All right. Well, I enjoyed this conversation. Around
it was a good one, man.
Yeah,
it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
They are a good band. This album is not good. It's a stamp of disapproval from both of us here on this one. But I do think people should check out Stone Roses. I'll check out that Turning into Stone.
Please,
yeah,
everybody should.
And if you haven't heard the first one, listen to it too.
That is everything that I love about that era, about that sound is it's there, present and accounted for, man.
All right,
and they're killing it.
Well, we'll have our fans let us know what they think. Don't forget, if you guys are enjoying any of this stuff, leave a comment, and I'll try to get back to you. People don't typically leave a lot of comments, so I haven't had too many.
You can call us rambling, incoherent asshole, any verbal abuse. You can sum it up.
I'm very much open to critique as long as it's helpful critique.
Are you a Russian bot looking to sway our opinions on world politics?
What do you think about Chinese weather balloons?
Hit like and subscribe.
Well, so since it's the end of the episode here, I do want to throw out, we have one more episode planned for next week. After that, Ryan and I will probably reassess. There's talks of a season 2 of this 90s nostalgia. Next week will be the end of season 1.
Hey, Chinese bot, what do you think of me showing up for season 2?
And what kind of K-pop was around in the 90s that we can reveal?
Listen. For all y'all working Brazilian troll farms.
Yeah.
Visit wilddinosaur.com. It's the best place to go to support this channel.
Buy some shirts. You can't see it, but I'm wearing one of my Wild Dinosaur shirts right now. But yeah, so do we want to give away what our final one for season 1 is going to be? What we're going to be talking about next week?
Or don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs, kids.
That might be a hint. Yeah, what do you think? Should we keep them wanting more? Or
we've told them all they need to know.
All right. We'll come back next week, and yeah, for everybody listening, we've had 2 of these on Mondays. They normally are Wednesdays, but this week
we don't plan anything, kids.
this Wednesday is my 100th episode, and so the more fun episode. Well, not to say that this wasn't a fun episode, but we have just a less directed conversation. Pat's going to be here. We're going to hang out. Pat and I have some music we're finishing up, and actually I think we are finished with it, and we'll be debuting a song and all of the information for when that music is being released. I have an album cover I want to debut for you guys too, so join me on Wednesday, but we will be back next Wednesday, back to our regularly scheduled programming for our episode 8, 90s nostalgia. Ryan, thanks for joining me again. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Anything you want to say to the kids before we go?
Don't
do drugs.
The stone roses.
Stone roses.
Turn into stone. Turns into stone.
All right.
Turn into stone or turns into stone?
Turns into stone.
I'd like to say whichever is correct. So, turns into stone.
Yeah.
It would be. Yeah.
All right.
Last thing to say.
Well, Ryan, we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you next week.
Peace out, Jambi.
Have a good night. Bye. All right, everybody. That was Ryan. This was our 90s nostalgia episode. And as he said before, don't forget to go to wilddinosaur.com. It's the best place to support the channel. If you like what we're doing here, if you like these conversations, if you want to join in the conversations, you're more than welcome to join me on these live episodes and jump in the chat there. But yeah, the best place to financially support this channel is go buy a t-shirt, sweatshirt, tote bag, something. Let me know about it. It's always really helpful. The other thing I like to do here is I like to direct people. There's a link in the description to donate to Planned Parenthood, because I think Planned Parenthood is a really solid organization, and in the United States, it is unfortunately necessary because of how our healthcare system works. But they do a lot of great stuff there. I've supported them myself, and I think a lot of other people should consider doing that as well. So check that link. For episode 99, I'm Jon Does, and I will see you on Wednesday at 6 p.m. for my 100th episode. 100 episodes of Jon Does. That's crazy. I've never been this consistent in my life with anything. All right, guys. Have a good night. Enjoy your Tuesday, and I will see you on Wednesday. Peace out.